Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time. Streaming is paused during breaks.
Good morning and a warm welcome. Good afternoon. One of those days. And warm welcome to you all. Thanks for being here. And a reminder with mobiles, if you have them, they could be switched off as it does interfere with our recording. And we welcome those that may be listening at home or in the office, wherever they are listening on air. We welcome them as well to our meeting. And I do want to just mention that item 20.1 has been withdrawn at advice from the General Manager due to the fact that it's going to be workshopped a bit further. So we're all aware of that. Thank you. So please be seated. So on opening the meeting, I have one apology from Councillor Cox. Declaration of interest. Any declaration of interest? No. Confirmation of the minutes. Some people move the minutes held on the 8th of August. Councillor Soward moved. Oh, with the amendment, we don't have to do anything different apparently. I was told, so as is, it's already in the amendment, it's been changed. So moved Councillor Soward, seconded Councillor Stojanczyk. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is all councillors present. That is carried. There's no deputations, no petitions. We do have a community report. We have Belinda Kitto from the New Horizons, and congratulations on Saturday night. It was a fantastic night. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Well run. Very professional, so please pass on to the organisers our appreciation. We enjoyed it and it was well done. And looking forward to your report now.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much for having me here today and to represent New Horizons Tasmania, which most of you know a lot about and have showed so much support to us over the years that we're very grateful to the City of Launceston for doing so. And again, thank you, Mayor, for organising a table on Saturday night at our Bond Ball, which we think was a huge success. And we're still doing final tallies, but it looks that we have hit the $40,000 mark.
Oh, fantastic.
We're really excited about that, and we can certainly do a lot of work with that $40,000. So that will be fantastic. So thank you for everyone that attended and those that supported in other ways. We really appreciate that. We've also just recently had another fundraiser, which Tim and Nick, you both jumped in the freezing cold water, so thank you for doing that. For our iceberg swim.
Never been the same since.
Also really wonderful to have. But for those that don't know New Horizons, our whole mission is to build inclusive communities through sport and recreation, and we provide sport, recreation and social activities for people with disability, all ages from 5 years right through to senior adults in Tasmania. And it's only been over the last 18 months that we've launched some satellite programs in the south. Other than that, we've been really heavily based in the north with 20 regular programs that run in different areas of sport, recreation, and then we have lots of social activities as well. So it's really important. We have 500 plus members now, and that is growing quite rapidly with our new introduction into the south of the state. We also have our northwest branch and our northeast branch that are fully run by volunteers, that they meet once a week as well, and those numbers, especially on the northwest, are growing. We seem to get new memberships every month or two coming in for those as well. So we, some of you may be aware of our funding situation. Is it a really difficult time for New Horizons? The core funding from state government ceased at the end of this financial year with the full rollout of the NDIS, and with New Horizons being heavily a volunteer organisation, so all of our programs are run by volunteers. We have very minimal staff that oversee the operations of New Horizons, and we don't fit the typical mould of the NDIS to access that funding. So we might have service providers come in, use our programs and bring their clients, but they will access those funds because we don't employ support workers through that way. So, but we're passionate about the model we have because it's a really great culture at New Horizons. It is like an extended family to especially some of our participants that don't have those support. And some of the things that we take for granted, some of our members just simply don't have. So it really extends far beyond sport and recreation because we have members coming in all the time. That's their second home and the place where they feel safe, and they will come and seek us out for many issues. Sometimes my office is a very interesting place. Yeah, and that's what we're there for. We want to be there to support them. So we know how important it is to make sure New Horizons continues to survive. We were lucky that we received some funding from Master Fund, which is a federal government fund, which will give us 12 months breathing time to the next financial year to try and we'll apply for some grants under the NDIS and also seek alternative funding options to try and make sure that we have security moving through to the future. So it's a difficult time, but things like these fundraisers we have, as much as it takes us away from some of our core business, it's still vital so that we can provide those services to our wonderful people in our community that most need them. But we've got lots of things happening. We've also been working with Sarah from Council on the Mowbray Learning site as well, and we've got some ideas there that will get involved in that program, and that's great because our base is out at Mowbray, so I think that's a fantastic idea as well. And we hope to extend our reach into Hobart and the northwest a lot stronger if we can access funding to have more people to drive that down there. That's New Horizons in a nutshell. I have got just a one-pager on New Horizons for anyone that wants to have a takeaway, so I'll leave that with you. But if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Oh, we don't normally have question time, but anyway, we do, but that's for us. people who want to ask us questions. No, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
No, it's a pleasure, Belinda. Thank you for the work you're doing in the community, because I know, and I know the councillors know, that have been out and seen the work. It's absolutely important and critical. So if anything that I can do or we can do, please let us know. I've made that request to you before to help with the funding. Don't be afraid to ask. So.
Thank you. We really do appreciate your support, because you've always been there when we need you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. So now it is time for questions, but public question time. So I'm sure there'll be a few questions from the public.
Just hold, Gillian Caution, Invermay. I'll just hold that up so you can see that. That came in my inbox today about calculate the real cost of catastrophe, that's insurance and other risks. Questions. Given A, that the Council's recent motion on climate emergency, and B, that sea level rise already affects Launceston with ever-increasing high tides, etc. And given C, the liability issues associated with the deviate landslip. Talk to everybody here. When is this council going to stop supporting and assisting amendments to the Invermay-Inveresk Flood Inundation Code instead of adding to its own risk and liability?
We'll take that on notice and get back to you. Thank you.
Yep. 2, similar sort of question, but with a slightly different aspect to it. Again, I'm showing you this here. This is global insurance here. This is global international insurance company stuff. The Launceston planning scheme includes sections on certain principles, for example, the public interest, local amenity, livability for residents and small businesses, etc. When is this City Council going to start to genuinely act, notice that genuinely act, not consider, act, on these principles in relation to Invermay-Inveresk flood risk matters? Or are council words on things like public interest, livability, climate change emergency, that's written and spoken words, just hollow rhetoric or indicators of double standards? Or, more hopefully, when is this council going to place some serious importance on the Flood Inundation Code and on its own commissioned BMT flood modelling report and on these international insurance matters in relation to risk and liability issues?
Yeah, we'll take that on notice as well. Thank you very much. Cool. Any other questions? Yes? Go.
Oh, hi, my name's Jo Toulson, and I live in number 7 Pleasant Place at Newston. And all I'm asking for is, due to the increase in traffic, I'm reading off the board, and questionable parking, entry and exit into Pleasant Place from Hoppers Bridge is becoming really difficult. Would it be possible to install a keep clear sign at the entrance of Pleasant Place so that ease and calms the traffic coming up? Okay. And if this is not possible, what alternatives are available to alleviate this problem?
Yep, thank you for raising that, and that's something that we can take on board and we'll investigate and come up with a response, which obviously, whether that's within the fortnight, I'm not sure, but otherwise we'll get back to you in due course. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you. Questions on notice for there as well. What's it now? Oh, announcements by the Mayor. I'll stand again. So just to mention, obviously, two great performances in the past fortnight. First of all was Tarzan. The opening night was fantastic. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Stage right, did a brilliant job with that. Great. Everybody that I've spoken to really enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it. The skills for our young people is incredible. And then again, just last night, Matilda was absolutely fantastic as well. So 2 great performances shows that we have hundreds of very talented young people in our city, and some not so young, but a lot of young people in our city that fantastic. And the musicals that I keep watching, and if you go somewhere else out of Launceston, the standard here is as good as anywhere else. So it's absolutely fantastic. So credit to all those working in that area. And it was exciting on Saturday to go to the official opening of the Riverbend Park, finally, and we got there. It was great, and the crowds came out and the public supported very, very well indeed. And it was a pleasure to be there, and I'm thankful for the weather on the day as well, but it was great to see the support from the public and actually the positive comments that people were having, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I got a text from a gentleman on Sunday, I think it was. Was that the day it wasn't too good weather? It was terrible weather. there were still people out there enjoying it. So he was just setting to show people will get out no matter what, but it's fantastic. Getting people outdoors is great. We really enjoyed it. Also, it's good on Sunday to go to the Vietnam Veterans Commemorative Service, and I just want to pass on from the organisers to the General Manager and the staff, and Elizabeth in particular as well, General Manager, for the support that our council continues to give the Vietnam veterans, and they really appreciate that, and the reception that we had up there was well attended, so we are thankful for our support and look forward to that ongoing support. And then I think it's just to say that Matilda was absolutely fantastic, a second word last night. If you haven't gone, make sure you go this next tonight or tomorrow night, even though it's sold out, just try very hard to get a ticket. It is well worth it. Councillors' reports. Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Council's representative on the Launceston College Association, I'd like to further expand upon the production of Matilda, which opened last night, and not only to celebrate the achievements of the students' artistic endeavours, but to recognise over 200 young people are involved in that production. As we know, the undertaking that is required for any project that is worthwhile takes a lot of time and commitment. Many of the students, of course, live further afield than just Launceston, and that means they need to come to additional rehearsals and in some instances give up weekend and after-school work in order to be involved in a production of that scale. But the learning outcomes, the sense of team, the sense of accomplishment, the sense of achievement that comes from a project like that just can't be measured in terms of not only the full houses that they're performing to, but the opportunity to role model in front of the 5 full houses of day performances as well, with students coming from as far away as Georgetown, Campbelltown and Deloraine to see the production during the daytime school matinees. So to Vicky Mackerel, the principal, Liz Bennett, the producer, and all of the creative team who have put that production together, a big congratulations.
Thank you, Deputy. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. Just while Belinda's here, I'd just like to congratulate New Horizons on a wonderful event again at the weekend, and just by the support you got from everybody in the room, it shows that you are a well-loved organisation. And I guess just this is framing a question as well, and you made the comment, Mayor, about what could we do. And I guess the NDIS, sort of having seen that through my health... Yeah, but it's really just looking at whether there's an advocacy role that we could have, because New Horizons and also other organisations around the city are falling between the cracks because of the NDIS. Whilst it may be a great thing, there are a number of organisations that rely on levels of block funding to assist them in delivering really great work, and whether we as a council should look to do some advocacy. So I might ask a question when it's my turn from the General Manager about how we might do that.
Yeah, we've already offered that and we are willing to do that, so that's no problem. Councillor Harris.
That's better. Thank you for that. Yes, I'd also like to add my congratulations to the council staff who got the Riverbend Park open on time. It was just a fantastic day, and I think everyone will look forward to that in the future. Newstead College Association, I attended there last night, and prior to what sometimes seems to be reported in the media, Newstead College is still powering along very well. It is a smaller community college, unlike Launceston College, but they certainly have some exciting stuff coming up, and whilst I can't kill it here, there is good news coming for them in the future. And finally, I attended a meeting of the South Launceston Community Development Committee last night, which is based in Kings Meadows, and had great discussions about the many issues they saw out there. And I'm really just prefacing this for perhaps when it comes to questions without notice about the traffic in the Kings Meadows and Guy Street area. So that's what I've been up to. Thank you.
Councillor Dawkins.
Thank you, Mayor. It's Book Week, as I'm sure you all know. I was fortunate enough to be invited out to Lilydale District School yesterday and read a wonderful story to 3 classes of 5 to 7 year olds. And whilst that is quite terrifying for many people, it was also incredibly enlightening, a really wonderful, heartwarming thing to do. And I would just like to commend the school for the way I was greeted, the professionalism with which the whole gig was dealt with, and to say that we need somebody from that community around this table. I think we're really lacking someone from the more of the regional area of our LGA, and it would be really lovely if next time, not that I want anyone to leave, but if someone was, just to find there was something else to do in their life, perhaps it would be great for us to be able to foster that kind of inclusion from the Lilydale community.
Thank you. I was there as well, which they did look after us very well. Thank you. Any other reports? We are reports from councillors. No. We'll move now to questions. No questions on notice. Any questions without notice from councillors? Councillor Spencer.
Thanks, Mayor. I had a phone call from Tim Chugg the other day about his tyre plant at Mowbray. There's a problem with the stormwater and sewerage. Is there any way we can actually help him get those connections to his property?
Take that on notice. I have to take that on notice.
Yep.
To follow
And also, he's got a problem with somehow we can fix the tyres that are left outside his where all the tyres are behind the gates. There's heaps of tyres get just thrown on the nature strip, and he doesn't want them. And we need to us councillors get rid of them or whatever.
Need to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take that on notice or take action on that bit. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. My question concerns the property 14 to 16 St George's Square, and just wanting to ensure, given the significant amount of inquiries I'm getting regarding the wall, that our processes are transparent. It says in the response to public questions on notice today that the paperwork was submitted to the Council's Building Permit Authority with regard to emergency work provisions. Just in terms of transparency, wanting to understand, was that paperwork submitted ahead of those emergency repairs or post-event?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. No, I can certainly confirm they were received after the event, and they were the prescribed forms as are provided under the Act.
Great. I was hopeful that was the answer. Thank you.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you. My questions is two questions here, which I'm sure you'll take on notice. During my short time here on council, I've seen a number of development applications where new buildings and businesses have included a certain number of on-site staff parking spots provided as a condition of the approval of the development. And one that springs to mind was the Hotondo Homes out in Invermay Road. Therefore, my question refers to probably two very long ago DAs for the Meadow Mews shopping centre in Kings Meadows, but I suspect the same question could be asked of places like the Kmart and also out at Mowbray. And that is the first question. The Meadow Mews shopping centre was built with two different DAs over the years. What was the number of on-site staff parking spots that had to be provided for the dozens of retail shops and supermarket that operate from this site? And my second question is, if indeed there were spots to be provided for their staff parking, what conditions or what, and they are now no longer able to park there because of conditions of the car park operator, which says 3 hours is the maximum time you can stay in the car park. And so my question is, what action can be taken by the council to force the operators of the Meadow Mews car park to provide the number of parking spots for the land as per their development applications and their approval, and so significantly reduce the number of cars that's been parked all day in the surrounding streets? So,
thank you. As no notice was provided of the question, obviously we haven't got the answers now, so we'll take that on notice and get back to you. Thank you. Any other questions from councillors? No, we'll move on. There's no committee reports. Council workshop report 13.1. Somebody happy to move that? Councillor Soward, thank you. Second to Councillor Spencer. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Soward? Councillor Spencer? Any councillor? Deputy Mayor?
I just wanted to highlight the receipt of the shopping in the city report. This was an outstanding document, and look forward to that being shared more broadly. Wanted to say that obviously we as a council placed significant focus on that with regard to some notices of motion and some other items that are before us, but really wanted to commend Louise Grimmer and her work, University of Tasmania lecturer, and really looking forward to us working collaboratively with CityProm and other parts of council to be able to share that information more broadly. It was digestible, it was easy to understand, it was relatable, and has some great, I think, really easily identifiable ways forward in terms of our city. So I wanted to thank the officers who'd worked with Louise and her team on that, and also to thank, I guess, those organisations, there weren't as many as we'd hoped, that were able to return the surveys, and those businesses too who got engaged proactively in wanting to make the CBD better, and so responded to the survey. But a great piece of work, and something I'm really looking forward to sharing.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Any other comment on that one? On this matter, yeah? No? It's been moved and seconded. No other speakers? This mover, Councillor Sauer, do you wish to close? I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is carried. Thank you. So we move on to 15.1. We do have some speakers for 15.1. So Nettie, first of all, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Councillors, and Launceston City Council team for inviting me today to talk about Ravenswood's experience with My Place, My Future project. The vision of My Place, My Future project is inclusion, connectedness, celebrating community assets and equality in access, which also aligns with the Starting Point Neighbourhood House vision of a safe, friendly place where people can grow and develop. And that's what I like about this plan. It's very reflective of community needs. From the beginning of this project meeting with Nicole, I felt that the project was focused directly on the community and what they thought might be best to enhance their lives in the northern suburbs. Nicole, John and the crew spent considerable amount of time talking to us at the neighbourhood house and the wider community. They also had other means of communication for the community to access. And I believe that this is the key to any successful plan in our communities. And it's even more exciting that the council engaged a community development approach similar to that of the neighbourhood house, as this allows for our working relationship to flourish in a positive and respectful manner and a working together approach. I was asked to join the steering committee to ensure that the community voice continued to be heard, and Nicole and I had lots of conversations and emails and phone calls along our journey, and I believe the community voice has been listened to, heard and reflected in the plan. I'm extremely happy with the plan developed, and I recently had an opportunity to present in Hobart where Kim Goods also presented, and she talked about the good life. What do people want for a good life? And not surprising, what people want for a good life is to feel included, valued, safe, have a stable accommodation, access to food and healthcare, and this was also reflected in the My Place, My Future plan. So I think it aligns on a statewide level as well. Working with a community development model can be a very slow way of working, with results often not seen immediately. But just like weight loss, so they tell me, it will have greater long-term effects. I hear it.
Your time is up. Thank you.
I truly hope that Launceston City Council can adopt these recommendations of My Place, My Future and continue work alongside us to draw out and build on the gifts, talents and skills of our community in the northern suburbs.
Thank you. And I understand you now want to read out a statement from Denise. Yes, you can do that now too. Thank you.
Centre. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today. Sorry, we're not saying that again.
No.
The Northern Suburbs Community Centre, alongside the Northern Suburbs community members, we work together and we have been very excited to contribute to the My Place, My Future plan. We see the plan today that can further assist the northern suburbs of Launceston and its people to become further embedded on the map with enterprise, employment, celebrations, health and wellbeing, transport, housing, education and support for our young people. In mentioning young people, we are delighted with the plan's proposed multi-purpose recreational hub development, a long-needed facility that will give dedicated spaces for such things as many sporting experiences, exercise, leisure, hangout areas for young people and others. As quoted, young people are the future of our area. The My Place, My Future plan is a great opportunity to give further support to these very unique communities and assist them to build on the great things that are already happening. We thank the three tiers of government for their commitment to the northern suburbs of Launceston, and we thank the many community members who have put forward their hopes, wishes and dreams for the northern suburbs, and look forward to the plan being endorsed today by the Launceston City Council. Thank you. Denise.
Thank you. And Catherine Murdoch.
Hello. Hello, it's really fantastic to be here today. I think hopefully the endorsement of this plan today is going to be a fabulous achievement under the City deal. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with the City of Launceston team on this and cannot speak highly enough of them. And from the highest, while we might have some new secretaries now in place, the buy-in from state government at the highest level continues, and as you'll see in your paper, we are very much looking forward to implementing the actions within the plan. I think this should be held up as an absolute exemplar in regards to the 3 levels of government working together. So we look forward to it being endorsed today and actually getting on with the job. I think this is going to be amazing for our city.
Thank you very much. So it's a move by Councillor Finlay, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Finlay?
Thanks, Mayor. It's great to hear when people speak to an item of council that there's emotion and passion and energy. We've had so much talk in our community around the City deal, and it's been quite concrete and black and white and infrastructure based. So this is bringing out the human side of the City deal. It's being able to bring out for 1/3 of our community members the opportunities of the outcomes of actually all working together. In a way, we've always talked in the past that we work together, but where people are both committed and compelled to lead and fund and work through to the end of a project. I, as the speakers have already said, I'm really excited about what is possible through this. It's obviously been, and from having members of the community here to support it, from within community, and I love that you said alongside community. It's something that's really different for our organisation to work through, so to navigate that and to be able to let go of a process and participate with the community is really powerful. And I love that of the 6 priorities in the area, that the goals that we're going to achieve is around that inclusion and connectedness. It's going to be around having people engage with more events in more recreational activities, be supported to sustain their educational experiences longer, to hopefully reduce the hospital presentations and increase health in the community. So it's across so many different things. But as I said, what you always learn when you go through these processes, and I think the thing that I learnt around this is that it actually represents 1/3 of our individuals and families, and that's really important. So we're making a really concerted effort together with the community to make a massive difference in an area that's really important. So I commend the plan and look forward, as others have said, to seeing the implementation.
Thank you, Councillor Finlay. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I also rise to support in its entirety the plan that is put to us. And it's not often that I quote directly from the papers, but I want to do so because I think the tone is not only perfect, but reflects the journey of where we've been and where we're intending to go. The Launceston northern suburbs encompass very proud, resilient, and very vibrant communities. Engaging with community representatives through the development of the plan has been both rewarding and inspiring for all stakeholders involved. The suburbs included in the scope of the plan include Invermay, Mowbray, Newnham, Mayfield, Rochely, Ravenswood and Waverley. And these suburbs, each with their own distinct identity, as Alderman Finlay and others have said, represent 1/3 of our population. But that the opportunity to strengthen these communities will have a lasting effect on the prosperity of Greater Launceston. I really want to commend Nicole, who I didn't know before this process began. I think the journey that she has taken in leading this is not only a great example of community development, but how our council can work with communities and how other directorates can learn from the approach that you have led and implemented through this plan. Of course, today in hopefully supporting the plan unanimously is where the greater work begins, because we have the vision, we have the roadmap, but I also say that I think we have the people within our organisation to continue reaching out with those people on the ground in those communities who are doing amazing things to enable those communities, those individual communities and the Greater Launceston to be better as a result of this collaborative input and this 3-level of government response to making our community better and the people be the best that they can be. So congratulations, Nicole, and to all members of the community development team. This is exciting and I can't wait to see the ongoing transformative impact that collaboratively we can have on Greater Launceston.
Thank you, Deputy. Councillor Soward.
Thanks, Mayor, and I totally support the remarks of the previous speakers, and I guess for me, and I've said around this table before with the city deal stuff, when you get three tiers of government that work together, work alongside each other to make things happen, great things come out of it. And just looking through the remarks in the paper from, we did hear from the state government representative, but, you know, everyone's in sync. They were all singing from the same sheet, which makes really, really important things happen. And it was terrific, Mr Mayor, to hear from Nettie on behalf of the community up there and the leadership role that she has. And I would say that the thing that really excites me is that this is actually a plan that's owned by the community. And I say this with all respect, but perhaps in times past at both federal, state and local government level, what's often happened with policy with the northern suburbs, it's been something that's not owned. It's like we come riding in on the white horse and fix stuff, you know. We want to work with you, let's fix stuff. But this is a plan, Mr Mayor, that is owned by the community. And Director Hurst and her team, Nicole, who's been mentioned, have played a key role in bringing everyone together and listening to those voices, getting those thoughts down. The community owns this plan, Mr Mayor. It's not just a document that's going to sit on the shelf and gather dust and that we talk about. It's going to be something that's owned and comes to life. Like previous speakers, and again, sometimes you've got to say these things out loud for people to understand them. 1/3 of the population of this municipality live in those areas. Now that's a learning for me, and I think that that's significant. This is a significant piece of work. It's founded on a sound academic basis, which is like any good thing should be. It's evidence driven, but more importantly, as I said, it involves people in the community having their say. I'm really, really excited, like Councillor Finlay and the Deputy Mayor, on what's going to come out of it. I'm really excited about the journey that we've taken. The document that's before us today that we're discussing, Mr Mayor, there is no one out there that could say, I haven't had a chance to have my say. It's not just something that's been cobbled together, it's been ongoing for a significant period of time. Hundreds, if not thousands of voices have fed into it, and I'm really, really excited about what it brings together. And again, as I said, one of the things that I hope with something like this, and Nettie mentioned it when she was talking about work she's been doing at a state level, one of the things that I hope comes out of it, Mr Mayor, that somewhere around this country there is a council or various governments sitting looking at this project and thinking, wow, this has worked in Launceston, let's give it a go in our community to make our place a better place. As this city does, it leads on many, many things, and I'm hoping this is one of them. Another one of them, I should say. Very excited that it's here. Fantastic. Great work from all our staff. Great work from all involved, and I look forward to seeing it being rolled out. And I also just want to finish on quoting from the papers. When you look on page 16, to consider the revitalisation plan, now titled My Place, My Future, a plan for living, working and playing north of the river. I just think they're terrific words. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Soward. Councillor McKenzie.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess governments of all sorts, are very good at doing things to people. And I think that probably, the northern suburbs is something over many years we've done things to them because we think it was good for them. And when I hear comments made by Nettie and comments made by Denise, I think we really nailed it this time in working out a program where we actually engaged them and they were the solution. I guess I and a couple of councillors or aldermen at that time from 3 or 4 years ago probably first got introduced to the concept through the ABCD stuff of Peter Kenyon up at the Rocherlea Football Club, I think about three years ago perhaps, which really hit home to me. Flipping things on its side, we always look at the deficiencies, what they don't have, rather than looking at what they do have. And I just will regale just one little aspect of that particular day where we sat down and Peter gave us 100 cards of various things that we do. A lot of those things you don't even think about that you do, but they're actually a skill set. And on the table that I was on, I think you had to put them into 3 piles. One was where you didn't know how to do it, or you did know how to do it, or somebody on that table knew how to do it. And then the second pile was you didn't know how to do it, but you knew somebody who did. And the third pile is you didn't know how to do it, and you didn't know anybody who could do it. And on our particular table, we had 97 that the table could do, and 3 that we knew somebody that could do it, and none in the pile that nobody could do it. So it just showed that when you start talking about things in assets, It's quite amazing because I know if my car breaks down, I just look at it. And I try to find my mobile phone to ring somebody to come and turn it on again for me. Whereas I know that a number of the people up in Rachel Lee just open the bonnet, tick the thing off, and away to go again. And so you sit there and we look at the assets in different ways. But I just sit there and look at those poignant things that there are a lot of things that people have paid me lots of money to do over the years, but I can't do the simplest thing about getting my car going again. Whereas they are assets that we have broad-based across our community. So what excites me about this is we're actually looking for those assets. We're actually trying to give people the understanding that they've got those assets and they can actually really contribute to their own community and a broader based community aspect of it. So I think this is absolutely fantastic, and I hope that, and I'll be very surprised if we don't have a unanimous endorsement of this today, on the work that's being done and very positive comments that have come back from everybody, not just one or two. Usually you find a few outliers, oh yes, you won't be any good and all this sort of stuff. I haven't heard one talk about this project in that way. And, from the Coordinator General's office over here and making those comments that they've made about the state government and their willingness and desire and really excited about being involved in it, I think is something fantastic. So hats off to our team who have led this process. The most important thing I think that we need to do at the end, and I did make this comment to John the other day when he presented to a Northern Suburbs committee meeting, I said, are we going to go back and celebrate this plan and say, here's what we've come up with, and take it to the community again so that we don't just write this report and say, well, we've done it now, but I think we just now need to go back to the Northern Suburbs, to Starting Point and Waverley and the other areas and just say, this is what you've told us, and let's celebrate it and let's work together and make it something fantastic. So if we do that, that rounds it out beautifully for me. But there's a lot of good work that's being done and a hell of a lot more good work yet to be done.
Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Councillor Dawkins?
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to, commend the officers and thank the speakers who are here today. Like many, I've been very interested in how this project was working and how those grassroots voices were bubbling up to be listened to by people who perhaps in the past have never had that opportunity to listen to those voices. We know the value of our northern suburbs. If you think of Mowbray, it's in fact the most diverse community out of our entire LGA, and in that aspect, the most contemporary community in our whole LGA. I think there's many lessons for us all to learn and many ways for us all to be involved in that diverse community, because if we don't, we really err. I think we miss a fantastic opportunity to become part of the wider world. So I think in many ways, for me, that's what I take from this project, and that's what I'd really like to see emphasised and enhanced as months and years go by. So grateful that this is a longer term project. We have heard many times over the years that there's been real reservations about short term funding models that don't deliver the outcomes. So for me, this really puts in place a scaffolding that is going to be able to increase capacity and engagement for our northern suburbs community for many, many years to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Harris?
Yes, I won't repeat what everyone else has said because it's all just about all been said. Only thing I would say, it is very good for the three tiers of government to work together. However, I look forward to being part of the fourth level of community activity, and that is the service clubs, who will be able to sit and put feet on the ground to perhaps help some of the other things that actually happened, that need to happen in this area. My own Rotary Club does reading for children up at Ravenswood as well as Breakfast Club, so we're already involved in that, and I know that we'll be looking forward to the opportunities that this report will bring, and I'm sure other service clubs, whether it be Apex or Rotary or Lions, will also look to step into that as well and bring the community along to make it all happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Any other speakers? I will say a few words, but Deputy, if you'd have the floor. Just to say, look, I support everything that's been said, and this to me is a very important day for our city, not just for the northern suburbs. While yes, it's great for the northern suburbs and it's going to be important for the northern suburbs, I think it's going to do more for our whole city. I always look at a chain, and if you have a chain of so many links, and if one of those links is weaker, the whole chain is useless. And I think for our city to continue to grow and develop, yes, we've got to get the CBD right. Yes, we've got to get the Tamar Estuary right. We've got to get the UTAS right, education right. But we also got to work at the northern suburbs and work together on that. And that's why I'm so pleased in the beginning with the previous General Manager will be able to make sure that this was part of the city deal. Very important. I think for too long, this council, state government and federal governments have neglected the northern suburbs. I really do believe that. It's been neglected in such a terrible way. And I know there's so many people up there working extremely hard, wanting to make a difference, are making a difference. What this is about is making that difference with them, working together with them and making sure that we can fill in any gaps and getting the funding that is going to be necessary. So we'll be coming to the state government and to the federal government. We will be needing funding, and that is going to be extremely important to show that we believe in what we're doing, not just about words on paper and something that's fantastic, but actions and also some dollars to back up those actions so that we can make that significant difference in our city. It is our city, the greatest city, which is going to make a difference for all. So it is about that working together, and it excites me very much because this is something that I've been fighting for many, many, many years for the northern suburbs and also for my days at City Mission. And I'll continue to do that because I believe it's so many important people up there. They do an absolutely great job, but they do need us to work together to make sure that we can achieve and fill in those gaps where people see gaps, and I hear often of gaps in areas, and we need to be able to do that, to work together to achieve that. And that's what I'm excited about, to do that, and thanks to the staff for working on this. It's been a great journey. Sometimes you start and you think where we're going to get, but we've got to a good place. But now, to me, the rubber hits the road and we're going to get even more exciting things to come out, not just the Northern Suburbs Hub, which is fantastic. There'll be other projects that will come out of this that are going to change and revolutionise the Northern Suburbs, which is what we need. So I want to see people from the Northern Suburbs. We talked about Lilydale being on council. I want to see more people from the Northern Suburbs being on council as well. And people who do absolutely amazing things, but they don't aspire perhaps sometimes to go a bit that further. So looking forward to that in the future. So thank you to everybody involved and looking forward, General Manager, to seeing this rolled out with support of government.
Thank you, Mayor. Back to you.
Thank you. Do you wish to close, Councillor Finlay? We'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is all councillors present. That is carried. Thank you. We go on to 16.1. Lease of basement area Macquarie House. Move Councillor Mackenzie. Is there a seconder? Councillor Finlay, thank you. Wish to speak to Councillor Mackenzie?
Only to say that this is a very logical process. It fits in with the realms of the Act, and I think it's a space that I think that we as council should have some level of control over in relation to it. So I think the dividing of Macquarie House into the parts that we have now and releasing that, and then it gives us total autonomy over what goes into there, because whilst it's set up to be a restaurant, I think the conversation that we had at workshop suggested that it could be something else as well, so it doesn't have to be limited to that particular sort of outcome. So I think it's a very straightforward decision for us, I hope.
Echoing the words of the mover in terms of the process and what might be achieved out of that, but also just reflecting that as we go down this path where this is becoming the heart of activity here with what's happening at Henty House on the bottom floor, with what's happening in Macquarie House, with what's happening with Civic Square. It'll be really exciting to be a part of what can happen out of the basement of Macquarie House.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do echo the words of previous councillors, and that it should be a straightforward decision, as Councillor Mackenzie says, but for the fact that in recommendation 1 we do mention that the area of Macquarie House would be leased to a commercial operator, and I know we did have some discussion that it may not be a commercial operator that may wish to lease that space. It could be a social enterprise or a community group for that matter, as much as it would be a significant investment for anyone to take on that lease. So I'm just wondering whether that the word commercial might be removed from that recommendation before we accept it.
I just question a commercial operator, I think, can cover a whole band of
covers
people.
Everyone who wants
We're leasing it commercially.
If it does, then I'm happy.
Sure
I just was going by the literal definition of that word. Yeah.
We try not to get too entitled on words. No, well done. But I think that's covered in there. So people want to come, anyone who can put a, go for it. Any other speakers? Councillor Mackenzie, wish to close? I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is all councillors present. That is carried. 16.2. Carvilla. Move Councillor Soward. Seconded Councillor Harris. Wish to speak to it, Councillor Soward?
Thanks, Mayor. Just briefly, it's very straightforward, but I think it's really important to note when you look at the report the significant size of the area that we're talking about out there. It talks, Mr Mayor, on page 24 of the agenda report that Carville is currently working on a plan to cater for placements for the next 20 years. It has the development cost there, and it talks about the fact that this new development will deliver up to 5,400 placements, which is significant. It also highlights that as part of that development there are some areas that are perhaps a little less favourable areas for the interment of ashes, and it explains the theory behind that. And to recognise the fact that those positions are a little less favourable, it indicates the matter before us that we're offering those particular fees at a reduced rate. So once again, all very significant, but more importantly, I think at the bottom of page 25, when we look at the budget and financial aspects, it talks about the adjustment of the fee schedule resulting in maximising the use of all the available areas, but just resulting in less revenue per placement. So it indicates there from the officer in question that the conservative estimate can be well managed within the existing budget, which is a very sensible thing. So I think it's a very sensible suggestion before us, and happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Soward. Councillor Harris? Councillor McKenzie?
I do, because when I read this item, I must admit I found it quite challenging. The logic of it is the accountant in me said, go for it. But then when I started thinking about what we're actually doing, or actually sort of where we're placing our loved ones after they've died, potentially cheapening that aspect of it. It was just my thought process. I'm going to support the motion because it makes totally logical sense, but I just when I started looking at the sort of broader context of what it is we're actually doing, I was a little bit challenged by it.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Soward, wish to close? I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That is all councillors present. That is carried. We'll then close the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Meeting is paused during breaks. Audio streaming of today's council meeting starts at 1 p.m. local time.